The Meanings of the Quran. Volume 1. 1 Chapter 1, Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. These words are found at the beginning of every surah, except Surah At-Tawbah, of the Quran. Some people, declaring this to be a verse, call it a part of the related surah, and include it in the counting of the verses of the surah too. Others do not consider it to be a part of the related surah and say that these words have simply been written at the beginning as a sacred opening. These are technical or academic arguments which do not hold any significance in our view. In Surah An-Naml it is mentioned that the beginning of the missive which was written by the messenger Solomon, to Queen Saba, Sheba, was with these words. This is from Sulaiman, and this is Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. 27:30. From this respect, these words are sent down from Allah, i.e., are the wahi of Allah, and for us it is sufficient to understand this much. It is commonly translated as follows. I begin with the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. There is no such word in Bismillah which could be translated as I begin. For this meaning the word abtada'an before this is assumed to be omitted, which means I begin. Some people say that the word akra'an is omitted before this because it is stated in Surah Al-Alaq that Iqra is my Rabbi Kalazi Kaleka, 96:1. It is said that the initiation of wahi, revelation, on Rasulullah was done with this verse in which the messenger was told to read you in the name of your Rabb who created, 96:1. The correct meaning of this verse will be dealt with at its own place. The reason that the omission of these kinds of words in front of Bismillah has to be accepted is because the meaning of the letter B, Ba, is taken to be with. It is true that the meaning of this letter is also with, but apart from this, there are other meanings as well. This letter is also used to describe a cause, i.e., to say that whatever is being said or done here, its cause is this, its aim is this, its reason or rationale is this. 1.1 The meaning of ism. The word ism is commonly translated as name. This is also correct, but for Allah this word is used to mean His attributes. The reality is that the basic meaning of the word ism, root smw, is for such a sign from which the thing related to it can be recognized. Since recognition of Allah is through His attributes, this is why the divine attributes are called Asma Ilahi. For example, in Surah Al-Hashr after noting various divine attributes, it is stated Lahul Asma al-Husna, 59:24, all the attributes of Allah possess the most beautiful and perfect balance. Therefore, for us the meaning of ism in Bismillah is divine attribute. After this comes the word Allah in Bismillah, which, we can say, is the personal name of Allah, and Rahman and Rahim are His attributes. 1.2 The connotation of Bismillah. According to these meanings, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim will mean that the aim of whatever is said or done after this is that Allah's attributes of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat should appear and manifest, i.e., these attributes should become applied in a tangible form. When these words appearing at the beginning of some surah of the Quran are attributed to Allah, i.e., it is considered that Allah has informed this about Himself, then this will mean that Allah's proclamation is that we have revealed this Quran, or this verse of the Quran, so that our attributes of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat become universally manifested. And when a mu'min begins any of his tasks with these words, then it will mean that I am taking this work in hand so that Allah's attributes of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat become manifested from this. This means that the purpose of Bismillah is to implement Allah's attribute of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat in a practical form. Now the question which will arise before us is, what is the meaning and purpose of the divine attributes of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat? Although all the attributes of Allah possess equal greatness and importance in their own right, it is obvious that those attributes which are stated to be part of the divine program and in line with its obedience are declared to be the purpose and need of the human program. They will hold special significance, and furthermore will be deserving of profound reflection and reasoning. Because these two words, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, appear at the start of Surah Al-Fatiha, it has thus been considered appropriate that their explanation should be given at that point. Therefore, Please bear with us. And for the time being understand this much, that Allah has revealed the Quran, whose purpose is also that in the human world his attributes of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat prevail everywhere, and whichever program his servants take into their hands, its purpose and need should also be this. Furthermore, the meanings and explanations which are being presented about the Quran at this time, according to my understanding, and which you are making an effort to understand, our purpose from this should be solely this, that his rahmat becomes manifested everywhere. This is, in any case, the sole aim before me, and the ultimate objective and desire of all my endeavors. 1.3 Beginning of Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, 1:1. The beginning of the Quran is with this magnificent verse, and the beginning of the verse is with the word Hamd. This verse is commonly translated as, All praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of all the worlds. 1:1. Non-Muslims commonly raise the objection that the Allah of Muslims is strange, who himself proclaims from his mouth that all praises are for me. According to them, for someone to say such things about himself does not seem appropriate. This objection of theirs is based on a misunderstanding. Through the divine revelation, which is preserved within the Quran, mankind has been given this teaching that they should say this, and do this. Therefore by Alhamd is not meant that Allah is praising himself. He has stated to mankind that you should understand this truth well and always keep before you that all hamd is for Allah. If, at the beginning of the Quran, the word kul, say, is understood to be implicit, then the matter will become clear. From this it will mean that Allah has taught mankind that you should say it like this or do it like this. As noted above, in this verse, and at similar places elsewhere, the word hamd is translated as praise. This translation does not explain the Quranic meaning accurately. For praise Arabs have other words as well, but those words have not been used in the Quran for Allah, only the word hamd appears for him. Therefore, it is extremely important to understand the basic and true meanings of this word. 1.4 Meaning of hamd. Amongst Arabs, the ecstatic articulation of those involuntary sentiments of immense appreciation which emerge spontaneously in the heart of a human being on witnessing some very beautiful, harmonious, and unique masterpiece, are called hamd. But for this there are a few conditions. 1. The beauty and exquisiteness, and masterpiece which is being appreciated, should be an external reality and a tangible entity. Regarding those things which are intangible, and which do not enter our perception, sentiments of appreciation and admiration cannot be created in our heart. For example, we can only admire an artist through those paintings of his which appear before us in a visible form. This is why the Quran has admonished those who have a proclivity for beautification and display, who without doing any constructive and beneficial work, desire admiration for themselves. The Quran states, and love to be praised for what they have not done, 3:188. They desire to be admired on the basis of those works which they do not do. 2. The act or work of someone about which hamd is being done should have been performed through choice and intention. An act performed involuntarily or in a mechanical way will not make it deserving of hamd. So much so, that the word hamd is not expressed for even that beauty which is present in someone by birth. Instead the word mata is used for this. For example, in the dance of a peacock, the peacock warrants mata, and its creator, Allah, deserves hamd. 3. It is also essential for hamd that the one expressing hamd should be doing so from the heart. Expressing praise under the coercion of someone will not be called hamd but mata. Nor can flattery, artificiality, or hypocrisy, or any false praise for someone have anything to do with hamd. In hamd sentiments of appreciation arise spontaneously on the lips. 4. It is also essential to have precise knowledge about the thing for which hamd is being expressed. Hamd cannot be expressed merely on the basis of conjecture. Vague concepts, obscure signs, doubts, and thoughts and beliefs producing uncertainty can never create the impetus for hamd. Hamd does not arise from deceptive thinking, superstition, and blind reverence. Its origin is that concrete conviction which has been acquired as a result of reasoning and evidence. 5. It is essential that those beneficial and beautiful attractions, and balanced and harmonious masterpieces about which hamd is being done should have reached their pristine level of accomplishment, and their benefits should be tangible. The art which has not reached its completion, or which is not beneficial for humanity, is not deserving of hamd and appreciation. Art for the sake of art can be worthy of madh but cannot be deserving of hamd. 1.5 How can hamd be done? This is the meaning of hamd according to the Arabic lugat, and it is in these meanings that the Quran has used it. When al precedes this word, alhamdulillah, then its meaning will be that the highest degree of every kind of hamdiyat is only for Allah, no one can share this with him. The being of Allah is far beyond the reach of human conjecture, thought, notion, conception. Hence, a mere mental concept of his being cannot evoke the sentiments of hamd, because the foremost condition of hamd is that the entity should be tangible and visible. Therefore, just as the appreciation of some artwork is in reality hamd of the artist, similarly the hamd of Allah can only occur through bringing the beauties and benefits of His creation in front of us. He Himself has stated, "There is not a thing but celebrates, tasbih, His hamd." 1744. Everything in the universe is a talking picture of the hamd of its creator. It is apparent from this that the hamd of Allah is only possible through reflection and reasoning in His created universe. He has also detailed one attribute of Mu'minin as being Hamidun, 9:112. It is apparent from this that when the hamd of Allah is possible through reflection and reasoning in the manifestations of nature, then the fundamental duty of the Mu'minin will be that they should reflect and reason in the things of the universe. That they should carry out research into different aspects of the universe, and by making the benefits of their tangible outcomes universal for mankind, provide practical evidence of the hamd of Allah. These are those very possessors of intellect and vision about whom Allah has declared, "Behold, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of night and day there are indeed signs for men of understanding, men who celebrate the attributes of Allah, standing, sitting, and lying down on their sides, and contemplate the creation of the heavens and the earth, our Rabb. Not for naught have you created all this. Glory to you. Give us protection from the punishment of the fire." 3:190-191. It is a fact that in the highs and lows of the creation of the universe, and in the alternation of night and day, there are great signs for men of intellect and vision to reach reality. Those men of intellect and vision who, while standing, sitting and lying down, constantly keep the divine laws before them. They reflect and reason in the creation of the heavens and earth, and when after research in them, the beneficences and diversities of the Creator of nature become unveiled before them, then they spontaneously exclaim, "Our Rabb! You have not created the system of the universe without aim, or for destructive purposes." This is Allah's hamd, and these are those men of intellect and vision, and those who engage in research and discoveries, who will be called Hamidun. And when all this endeavor and effort of theirs will be to universally dispense Allah's attributes of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat so that the whole of humanity benefits from this, then these Hamidun will be called Mu'minin. 1.6 Who are the Ulama, scholars? These are the same ones who are called Ulama, scholars, by Allah at another place. In Surah Fatir it is stated, "See you not that Allah sends down rain from the sky? With it we then bring out produce of various colors. And in the mountains are tracts white and red, of various shades of color, and black and tense in hue. And so amongst men and crawling creatures and cattle, are they of various colors. Those truly fear Allah among His servants who have knowledge, Ulama, for Allah is exalted in might, all protecting." 35:27-28. Have you not pondered on how amazing and based on wisdom is Allah's system of providing water? He brings down rain from the heights of the atmosphere, and from this one water produces all kinds of growth, fruits, flowers, grains, etc. And have you also ever pondered on how many great signs of Allah's system of evolution these mountains which appear to be just standing there like frozen stationary matter are holding within themselves? How many very long eras of history each and every layer of their rocks, which are red in some places and white in others, and in some places jet black, are holding squeezed within their folds. And then reflect on human beings, cattle, and livestock, and other living creatures present on planet Earth, how these are all divided into countless species and how among these each species possesses distinct traits. You merely cast a cursory eye on these things of the universe and move on, but when those among the men of Allah who possess knowledge and wisdom reflect and reason on these, they are awestruck by the perception of His supremacy and authority. And these words of appreciation and admiration, Hamd and Tahseen, arise spontaneously on their lips that, undoubtedly, their Creator, the one Allah, is master of unparalleled sovereignty and power, but He does not use this power and authority for destruction, He brings it into use for the protection of the universe. These are those scholars of knowledge and research who are declared as Allama by the Quran, and who are the practical embodiment of Allah's attribute of Hamd. In another verse the Quran has stated that, "Verily in the heavens and the earth are signs for those who have Iman. And in the creation of yourselves, and the fact that animals are scattered, through the earth, are signs for those of assured conviction." 45:3-4. There are signs for the Mu'mineen in the highs and lows of the universe. These are the people who hold firm conviction in the Creator of the universe and His immutable laws. In your own creation and the continuation of other species of animals, there are signs for those people who have conviction in the universe being hacked. These are the men of intellect and vision. These are the ones who are declared as being righteous, muttaqi. Verily, in the alternation of the night and the day, and in all that Allah has created, in the heavens and the earth, are signs for those who are muttaqi. 10:6. After this degree of emphasis on the use of intellect and reasoning in the system of the universe, it is stated, "Such are those signs of Allah which we rehearse to you in truth." Hak then asked them, in what exposition will they have Iman after Allah and His signs? 45:6. 1.7 Reflection and deliberation on the Quran. Up until now we have described the manifestations of Hamd in the physical universe, but aside from means of sustenance, man also requires correct guidance in the journey of life. This guidance used to be made available through Wahi, whose last link is the Quran. Allah has declared this book also as a manifestation of Hamd. Hamd be to Allah, who has sent to His servant the book, and has allowed therein no crookedness. 18:1. In other words, when you will ponder on this code of laws which He has sent down on His messenger, then this reality will be spontaneously testified to by your tongue that it is truly deserving of Hamd and appreciation. That being who has bestowed such a code of life in which there is no crookedness, by causing the caravan of humanity to tread on the straight path, Sirat-e-Mustaqim, He takes it to its intended destination. It is obvious that this Hamd of Allah can only be performed through deep reflection and deliberation on the Quran. Furthermore, Mu'mineen are those who, by carrying out research and investigation into the outer universe and by reflecting and deliberating on the Quran, demonstrate this truth to the world that it is the being of Allah which is deserving of Hamd. 1.8 Ahmad, Muhammad, and the stature of Mahmud. That great and accomplished self who initially made the Hamd of Allah general in this way was termed as Ahmad, 61:6, i.e. the one who does a great deal of Hamd, and it was from this that he himself became declared as being Muhammad himself, 48:29, whose Hamd should be expressed continuously and persistently. These were the supreme achievements of his righteous life on the basis of which it was declared that he is established on the stature of Mahmud, 1749. Through his blessed hands that system became established. Seeing which the whole world rose to proclaim that Allah who bestowed such a revolutionary system is in truth deserving of Hamd and appreciation, and following this, that revolutionary messenger is deserving of Hamd who demonstrated the system by establishing it in a practical form. The foremost consequence of this system was that the roots of those nations were severed who used to subject weaker human beings to injustice and oppression and used to exploit them through subjugation and servitude. This was that beneficial accomplishment of his through which the Hamd of Allah emerged and appeared perspicuously before the world. In view of this it was stated, of the wrongdoers the last remnant was cut off. Hamd be to Allah, the Rabb of all the worlds. 645. The roots of unjust nations were severed, and in this way the Hamd of Allah, the Rabb of all the worlds, was stamped on the face of the universe. 1.9 Beauty and Supremacy. It is obvious that for this kind of transformation a demonstration of the aspect of supremacy of the being of Allah will also be essential, i.e., together with demonstrations of the beauty and balance of creation, a manifestation of power and authority. This is why the Quran has declared the fountainhead of both beauty and supremacy as being the being of Allah when it is declared, to him belongs dominion, and to him belongs Hamd, and he has power over all things. 64:1. If there were no display of supremacy in the universe alongside the beauty, then this system would end up becoming destroyed. On the other hand, that power and authority which is not a manifestation of Hamd ends up becoming the rule of Pharaoh and Genghis Khan, i.e., if deen is dissociated from politics, then what remains is tyranny. This is why Allah has stated that together with the divine guidance he has also sent down a razor-sharp sword, 57:25, because with the equilibrium provided by both of these, the system of life can remain in place. Because if power is not overseen by the Quran, then it becomes tyrannical, and if there is no power of implementation alongside the Quran, then it remains merely as a sermon. Hence, the Jamaat-e-Momineen becomes Hamidun by bringing these two attributes of Allah into action. From these explanations you can conclude that when a Momin, Muslim, proclaims Alhamdulillah, what its meaning is and what its aim is. It is clear from this that by Hamd is not meant the repetition of a few words from the tongue. This is commensurate with bringing a system into shape in which, by harnessing the forces of nature, these are made widely available for the universal rebubayat of mankind according to divine guidance. And whatever forces are an obstruction in its path, to remove these. Details of these matters will be covered in the following words. 1.10 Allah. After Alhamd, the next word is Lillah. This is in reality, Li plus Allah. Li means for, therefore Lillah will mean for Allah. And Alhamdulillah will mean that Hamd in its most complete and absolute form is only ascribed to Allah. Therefore, the word Allah now comes before us. It is commonly stated that this is the combination of Al plus Ilah, therefore the meaning of Allah will be the true Ilah, the one Ilah. As has already been stated, this, Allah, is a proper noun, i.e., this word is used for the divine self and all other words are the attributes of this self. In the root of Ilah, ilh, the following meanings are implicit. 1. Having been frightened, looking for someone's protection or giving protection. 2. Becoming astonished. 3. Holding a high status and being hidden from vision. 4. Accepting servitude to or the rule of someone, i.e., acknowledging and accepting the supremacy and authority of someone. According to these meanings, Allah, i.e., the Quranic Ilah, is that elevated and supreme being who is hidden from human eyes, in front of whose supremacies human intellect and vision remain awestruck, whose sovereignty encompasses the whole of the universe, obedience and submission to whom is a must, i.e., by acknowledging him as Ilah, this means that obedience to him and to his authority be adopted. As has been said before, we can neither know nor say anything about the form and nature of the self of Allah. He is beyond the limits of human intellect and consciousness and ideation and comprehension. He has stated, no vision can grasp him. 6:103. Although we only know this much, what the attributes are of that being, and these attributes too are also those disclosed by him which are written down and preserved in the Quran, therefore, by Iman in Allah, this will mean to accept and adopt the rule and authority of that being whose attributes are cited in the Quran. 1.11 The universal concept of Ilah. As I have written at the beginning of my book Mano Yazdan, if you pass through any era of human history and cast an eye on any part on the face of planet Earth, you will find one thing which is commonplace among the whole of mankind, irrespective of time and place, i.e., the concept of some great and high being, the awareness of some supernatural power which should be bowed down before, and which should be worshipped, from whom supplications should be entreated, which should be feared, and in whose honor offerings should be presented. Explorers of the world and Western researchers, even if they have reached such a location where no outsider before them had ever laid even a footstep, and where the local inhabitants, totally unfamiliar with civilization and structured society, were living a life like the initial era of ignorance. Despite the fact that they were completely disparate compared to the outer world in their style of living, economic ways, and cultural practices, even amongst them there was to be found a belief in some invisible, higher, and greater power which they used to worship. Together with this, it is also a fact that wherever this awareness of such a being exists, its concept or details are different in every place. And these are the differences where the god of every tribe is distinct from the god of another tribe, and the idol of every religion is dissimilar to the idol of other religions. This expression that Ram is the same and Rahim is also the same is evidence of ignorance of reality, a deceptive idea, or a deliberate misrepresentation. The Yahuwah of Jews, the Father of Christians, the Eshvar of the Hindu religion or the Paramatma of their Vedant, the Yazdan of Zoroastrians, are all completely different from one another. And Allah of the Quran is distinct from all of them. This is because the founders of these religions, whom we can include in the list of Anbiya, though the Anbiya are not the founders of Deen but will be called the propagators of Allah's Deen, would have described the same attributes of Allah which are detailed in the Quran. But later on human ideas and concepts were mingled with these attributes, and in this way not only did the gods of different religions become different from each other, they also became the embodiment of a totally different concept from the true and pristine concept of Allah. This is why the Quran has stated, Hamd and glory be to him, for he is above what they attribute to him. 6:100. 1.12 The true Allah. The true Allah is far beyond and higher than those attributes which the human mind has carved and attributed to him. The correct concept of Allah can only emerge before us according to those attributes which are noted in the Quran, because no contamination has taken place in these from human thoughts and beliefs. And this is the reason that the Quran simply does not accept the Iman in Allah of these people who have Iman in Allah according to their own individual concepts. And it states clearly, so if they have Iman as you have Iman, they are indeed on the right path. 2:137. If these people accept Iman in Allah in the way that you have accepted Iman, only then it will be acknowledged that they are treading on the right path. When he has said that, there is nothing whatever like unto him. 42:11. This does not only mean that the being of Allah cannot be understood through any simile, because the simile that will be given will, in any case, be that of some tangible and finite entity, whereas his self is invisible and infinite. It also means that whichever gods people of other religions believe in, none among them is like this Allah whose concept Allah himself has presented. 1.12.1 This cannot be translated. And from here this point also arises before us that the word Allah cannot be translated into another language, because in whatever language it is translated, it will lead to the concept of that God which the speakers of that language believe in as God. For example, from the word God the concept of the God of Christians will come to mind, and from the word Eshvar the concept of the God of Hindus. The next question which arises is, why is it essential to accept Iman in Allah, and what effect does this have on our life? For example, one person says that there is a God, and the second one says I do not believe in him. Or one person accepts the God whose concept is presented, for example, by Christianity, and another accepts that being whose concept is given in the Quran. What effect will this have on their practical life? Because if there is no effect resulting from the belief or ideology of a human being on his individual and collective life, then whether it is accepted or not is of no consequence. The answer to this question merits greater detail. which I have noted in my book Mano Yazdan, The Human Self and Allah. Here, it is noted briefly. 1.13 Why accepting Iman in Allah is essential. The Quran informs us, and now, apart from other world religions, psychologists have also begun to provide evidence of this, that man is not just the name for his physical body which remains alive like other animals under physical laws and finally expires at the hands of death. Within man there is one other entity which is called his being or self, nafs. Every human child is endowed with the self from Allah, but in an undeveloped form. The self of a human being does not terminate at the hands of death, rather it remains alive and progresses forward even after this. For the sake of comprehension, we will call the physical life of man life at an animalistic level, and the life possessed by his self will be called human life. 1.14 The human self. The development of this undeveloped self is the purpose of human life and its aim. After death, the developed self becomes capable of traversing further evolutionary stages. Details of these matters will be covered in their respective places according to the Quranic verses. It is absolutely critical to have precise knowledge of the fact whether the self of an individual is developing or not. In the absence of this, man can suffer from misconceptions or self-deceptions. Self-purification, tajka nafs, through meditations and rituals in mysticism is a consequence of this misconception. The self in its absolutely complete form is the self of Allah, and those attributes of His which are defined in the Quran are, you could say, the rays reflecting from it, or are its various facets. Leaving aside those attributes which are solely specific to the divine self, e.g. Abd, infinite, etc., the remainder of the attributes are also kept within man as latent potentials in a finite form. As the human self keeps on developing, these attributes keep on being reflected, within the limits of being human. In other words, the manifestation of the divine attributes takes place in the character and conduct, within the limits of being human, of that individual whose self is becoming developed. Therefore it is essential that in order to know whether our self is developing or not, and if it is happening then to what extent, we will need to see whether the divine attributes can be glimpsed or not in our character and conduct. Looking at it from this aspect, the divine attributes will serve as external criteria or an objective standard by which to measure the development of our self. By this man cannot suffer from any false perception or self-deception. This is the foremost requirement of Iman in Allah and its fundamental purpose. But development of the human self is only possible through obedience to these laws and values which Allah has provided through Wahi, and which are now preserved within the Quran. This is the aim of having Iman in Allah as being Ilah, possessor of absolute sovereignty. In the outer universe everything remains busily functioning under the obedience of the divine laws in pursuit of the achievement of that aim which has been defined for it. None of these things has the audacity to go against this obedience or to express rebellion. This is because they have not been given the power of choice and intent, they have been created constrained for the purpose of remaining obedient to these laws. Contrary to this, man has been created as possessor of choice and intent. The first and foremost evidence of his being possessor of choice and intent is that though his physical life is dependent on obedience to the laws of nature like animals, by rebelling against these laws he can even commit suicide. Animals cannot commit suicide. 1.15 Collective life. In the same way that laws and regulations are essential for the physical life, animalistic level, of man, laws and regulations are essential for his life at a human level, i.e., that life in which development of his self takes place. If we look at it from this angle, then it is essential for man to abide by dual regulations, one code for the growth and nourishment of his physical life, body, and a second code for the strengthening and development of his life as a human, self. Growth and nourishment of his physical, animal, life can also take place at an individual level, from living alone and in isolation, but the development of his self is only possible by living a collective life where one man has to deal with another man. This belief that development of the human self, tajka nafs, is possible by living in caves, mountains, jungles, desolate places, or sitting in prolonged meditations, or in secluded abodes within monasteries is self-deception, and, in any case, contrary to Quranic teaching. The program proposed by the Quran is, and bow down with those who bow down, collectively. 243. Bowing down in unison with those who are bowing down before the divine laws and be with those who are truthful, Sadiqeen. 9:119. Living life in the companionship of those who are truthful. The Quran declares the condition for entry to Jannat, paradise, to be. Enter you then among my devotees. Yes, enter you my paradise. 89:29-30. This will be called the communal life of man. Therefore, there is also an unavoidable need for a code of laws for the communal life of man. The need for laws and regulations for this life is accepted by every nation of the world. The view of one group of men, who are in the majority today, is that human society can formulate these laws itself. This doctrine is called secularism. But the Quran informs us that from this there will be conflict in the communal and social life of men, just as is evident from history that this has been happening and is still continuing to happen. It states that laws for this should also come from this same Allah whose laws are in action in the outer universe and according to which the system of the universe is functioning with such balance and beauty. 67:3-4. These laws are received through Wahi and are now preserved in the Quran in their complete and immutable form. 6:116, 15:9. Among the supporters of secularism there are also those people who at least accept that the universe is created by Allah and that it is His laws which are functioning in this, but the Quran does not accept this as being Iman Billah, Iman in Allah. About these people it says that, if you ask them who created the earth and heavenly bodies, and under whose laws are the sun and moon in action, they will reply, it is Allah alone who has created them, and these are subject to His laws alone. Then it says, if you ask them who is the one according to whose laws rain descends from the skies, from which the dead land gains new life, they will say that this only takes place due to Allah's laws. After this the Quran states that when they accept the functioning of the divine laws in the outer universe, then how can they reject the necessity of His laws in the human world? Having reached this far, what is the thing that deceives them? Say, to whom belong the earth and all beings therein? If you know. They will say, to Allah. Say, yet will you not receive admonition? Say, who is the Rabb of the seven, numerous, heavens, and the Rabb of the throne supreme? They will say, Allah. Say, will you not then follow His laws? Say, who is it in whose hands is the sovereignty of all things, who protects, but is not protected? Say, if you know. They will say, it belongs to Allah. Say, then how are you deluded? 23:84-89. Why do veils descend on their intellect and reasoning? 29:61. The Quran states, announce to them. Say, Hamd be to Allah. 29:63. 1.16 Ila of Ard, earth, and Sama, heavens. The outer universe is not the only abode for Allah's Hamd, it is essential that the human world also becomes the manifestation of this. Keep the human world within the obedience of the divine laws, and after that you will witness how fountains of joys and successes gush forth here, and choruses of admiration and appreciation arise. The Quran states, remember that it is He who is Ilah in the heavens and Ilah on earth, and He is full of wisdom and knowledge. 43:84. It is His sovereignty which reigns in the domains of the universe and also His authority on the earth. Iman in Allah means that in both these spheres the functioning of only His laws should be accepted. If Allah is accepted as Ilah of the external universe, and man opts for another Ilah in his social life, this will lead to chaos. If there were, in the heavens and the earth, other gods besides Allah, there would have been confusion in both. 21:22. 1.17 Those who make their desires as Ilah. Not only does the Quran declare that to live life under the control of laws devised by human society is counter to Iman in Allah, it goes one step further than this and declares, "Then see you such a one as takes as his God, Allah, his own vain desire? Allah has, knowing him as such, left him astray, and sealed his hearing and his heart, and put a veil on his sight. Who, then, will guide him after Allah? Will you not then pay attention?" 45:23. Have you pondered on the state of that individual who has himself made his own emotions as his Allah? The consequence of doing this is that man loses the ability of hearing, seeing, and thinking and understanding, his intellect becomes shrouded, and in this way, despite possessing knowledge, he sets out on the paths of destruction and ruin. Only the guidance of Allah can save such an individual from destruction. 1.18 Emotions, Knowledge, and Guidance. At this point an important issue arises which I do not wish to proceed from without addressing. Details of it will come in its own place. Here, it will be sufficient to say that when the Quran was revealed, the whole world was steeped in monasticism. According to this practice, it was thought that human emotions were the chief adversary in getting access to God, and nearness to God could only be achieved by the one who eliminates emotions. This was called eradication of the inner self. This was an extremely poisonous practice. Firstly, emotions are that very force which provides the impetus for human action. If these are destroyed, then man becomes merely as a stone. Secondly, that emotions simply cannot be destroyed, and to believe this is self-deception. Emotions can only be suppressed, and when these suppressed emotions find their natural true outlets closed for their expression and satisfaction, then they surface via unnatural ways. According to the terminology of psychology, this is called perversion, as a result of which man becomes the victim of various kinds of psychological ailments. The Quran arrived and challenged this erroneous practice of monasticism, and stated that making the emotions rebellious and unbridled is a cause for destruction and ruin. It calls this making the emotions as Allah, i.e., God. If these are kept under Allah's guidance, then great constructive tasks can be accomplished as a result of these. This is why the Quran states that, "And who is more astray than one who follows his own lusts, devoid of guidance from Allah?" 28:50. At another place, "Nay, the wrongdoers follow their own lusts, being devoid of knowledge. But who will guide those whom Allah leaves astray?" 30:29. In the practice of monasticism, knowledge and emotions are declared to be the opposite of each other. This is why every claimant of divine nearness is bent upon vilifying intellect. But the instruction of the Quran is to utilize emotions in the light of knowledge. The human intellect required centuries to reach this truth, apparently contradictory. Hence, in the 20th century, psychology is coming to the fore as a science, though it has not yet been able to become an established subject of science. Following extensive research, experts in this field have partitioned emotions into two parts, i.e., rational passions and irrational passions. This is that very divide and differentiation which the Quran referred to 14 centuries ago, and which, before this, the human intellect could not accept. It used to call knowledge and passions two opposing elements. These are those places where, having reached, man spontaneously declares that there is no doubt and ambiguity in this, that the Quran is not the product of the human intellect. In any case, the Quran has placed Allah's divinity, the sovereignty of Allah, at such an elevated and pristine level, that it even declares making a God out of human emotions as being shirk. From these explanations it is clear that man should keep both his individual and collective life under the obedience of the divine laws. These laws used to be made available via wahi, and are now preserved in his book, the Quran. This is what is called acceptance of Allah's sovereignty, and this is what is called having iman in Allah. Hence, the Quran has declared in very comprehensive words that, "And if any do fail to judge by what Allah has revealed, they are kafir." 544. Those who do not make all of their decisions in accordance with Allah's book are the ones who are called kafir. Only those people who spend their life in obedience to his book can claim to be those who obey Allah as their ilah, and only they can state in reality that all hamd is for Allah. 1:1. After these two words in Surah Al-Fatiha, 3 attributes of Allah are noted with great precision, whose meanings are that the manifestation of his hamd and its emergence will be fundamentally via these attributes. These attributes are Rabbil Alamin, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, and Maliki Yawm-Iddin. First of all, let us take the word Rab. 1.19 Rab. The basic meanings of Rab, RBB, are to provide nourishment, i.e., for something to be passed through ever new forms, so that in this way, by becoming nourished and developed stage by stage, it reaches its completion from its starting point. This technique of nourishment is called Rabi'at, and the one who gives nourishment in this way is called Rab. In this technique the aspects of reformation, correction, and strengthening are also implicit, and since the natural consequence of nourishment is beauty and exquisiteness, this is why Ar-Ribatu is what you call those plants which remain evergreen and fresh in all seasons, winter and summer. From the above the basic meanings of Rabbun become clear, i.e., the one who gives nourishment, the one who takes to completion, the one who organizes affairs, the one who reforms, the one who takes forward, and the one who bestows strength, i.e., the one who takes everything from its starting point to its completion. 1.20 Creation of the universe. How did this visible universe come into existence from nothing? The answer to this is not possible for the human intellect. In the system of nature the law of cause and effect is functioning and continuing, i.e., whatever manifests here is the consequence of some cause. Physical science is the name given to determining the links of cause and effect. These researchers keep extending these links back in time, and they are also succeeding to a large degree in their research, but ultimately they reach such a point in this where, though this universe is visibly in existence, it is not comprehended how it came into existence. In other words, though an effect is present, nothing can be known of its cause. Even the greatest of scientists can be seen confounded at this point, perplexed and awestruck just like someone completely ignorant. We have seen, under the topic of Allah, that being awestruck is included in the meaning of ilah. The beginning of the universe is that point of wonder which is connected with the majesty of ilah. This is why Allah has declared himself as the one who created the heavens and the earth from nothing, 2:117, or 6:14. In other words, the one who brought this material universe into existence without the presence of prior material. The one who brings into manifestation an effect without a cause. He has called the state before the beginning of the universe as being the domain of Amr, and after the emergence of the universe as being the domain of Khalq. The beginning of human knowledge commences from the domain of Khalq, and it is from this very point that comprehension of the Rabi'at of Allah also has its origin. 1.21 The doctrine of evolution. Discoveries by physical sciences have reached this reality that the form in which we find things of the universe today is not the one in which it was at the beginning. The beginning, you could say, of everything among them started from one point. After this, whilst becoming nourished continually, that entity kept advancing forward, the dot became a line, and by passing through various phases and stages became shaped into this form which we witness before us today. This is called the theory of organic evolution in their terminology. At this point it suffices to say this much. In this regard observe also that the linguistic meanings of these words, Hamd, Allah, and Rab, which we have noted, and then the meanings for which the Quran has employed them, are there any words available in any other language of the world in which these could be translated? Just take this word Rab. In English translations of the Quran, whether those translations have been done by non-Muslims or by Muslims themselves, this is translated as Lord. Just reflect whether that meaning which is implicit in the word Rab can be conceptualized in any way whatsoever from this word Lord. Never mind understanding the meaning, the concept which is formed about Allah from this is completely different from the concept which is created by the word Rab. On the one hand, the one who, providing nourishment to the things of the universe, takes them from the starting point to the point of completion, and in this way, by passing them through evolutionary stages, causes them to manifest their latent potentials, and on the other hand, the term Lord. This is the reason that Gibb, 1945, said that the translation of the Quran cannot be done in any language of the world. Only its meanings can be explained, and this is the very reason that even after compiling the Lugat al-Quran, I did not translate the Quran, but presented its meanings. In any event, when a researcher reflects on the system of the universe and observes how Allah's Rabu'iyat converts a drop of water into a pearl, and turns a nondescript cell of life into the being of Adam after passing it through millions and millions of stages, he spontaneously proclaims, Hamd be to Allah, Rabb of all the worlds. 1:1. But the manifestation of this attribute of the Rabu'iyat of Allah is not confined to only one thing or one part of life, this encompasses all the worlds. From this the next matter now appears before us, i.e. what is meant by worlds? 1.22 Alamin, worlds. Its root is an lm, which means to know and recognize. Therefore alim, as in lim, is a possessor of knowledge or someone who knows about some matter, and alam, as in lam, is that thing through which someone can recognize something, i.e. a sign or symbol of something. For example, alam, flag, is the symbol of an army. You are passing through a desolate jungle at night where there is no sign of any human life, and you glimpse a flickering light in the distance. From this you will recognize that a human being lives there. That lamp will become the sign or alam of the presence of some human being. As has been noted earlier, the reality of the form of Allah's self cannot be grasped by human consciousness, but the existence of this universe is a sign of this fact that it has some creator. Therefore, this discernible universe will be called the sign or means by which to recognize the invisible and imperceptible self of Allah. From this a comprehensive point arises before us. The Quran has called the universe alam, which means that the existence of the universe is not in itself the objective, but only a means by which to recognize someone, to recognize the stature of man himself. And moving forward from this, to know and understand this amr, that there is some creator of this universe under whose supreme and grand scheme this whole system is busy functioning. The declaration that this visible universe is not an objective in itself but is the means to achieve a higher and greater aim could only have been the miracle of the Quran. In the words of Iqbal, this garden is a place for tending to angst and its expression. It is neither for roving nor a permanent refuge. Alamin is the plural of alam, therefore its meaning is universes. We consider this world of ours as being the universe, but who knows how many universes there are created by Allah. And then the meaning of this word will become even more clear when we bring this fact noted in the Quran before us. He adds to his creation as he wills, 35:1. Allah keeps on adding to his creation according to his program of Mashi'at. Who knows how many new universes keep on coming into existence every new day. Keep these awesome expanses of these creations of Allah in mind, and then reflect on this fact that he has called himself Rabbi al-Alamin, i.e. responsible for the nourishment, Rabu'iyat, of all the universes. 1.23 Life in the stellar bodies. Arabs used to think that no growth takes place in mud and stone, and similar inert material, therefore they reserved the word alam only for living or conscious things. And it was from this very viewpoint that they used to consider alamin as meaning various nations of the world. But now scientific discoveries are pointing to something else, as a result of which the distinction between inert and non-inert is disappearing. Not only this, the ancient concept of matter itself has been transformed. Thus Allah's being Rabbi al-Alamin will not remain confined just to living things, rather will encompass all things which are dispersed throughout the universes. But if we consider it to be limited only to living things according to the ancient concept of the Arabs about living things, even then according to the Quran living things are not confined only to this planet Earth. It says that there are such planets dispersed throughout the heavens in which there are living creations. In Surah Ash-Shura it is stated, and among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the living creatures that he has scattered through them, and he has power to gather them together according to his will. 42:29. Among the divine signs is also this, that he has created the heavens and the earth, and has scattered living creatures within them. Following this, the final words of the verse merit intense reflection and attention, in which it is stated that he also has the power that at some point in time he may cause these living creatures dispersed among different planets to connect with each other. Perhaps this quest and pursuit of man may one day provide proof of this reality which is noted in the Quran. The Quran has also declared in relation to the unveiling of Haqq that soon will we show them our signs in the furthest regions of the universe and in their own selves, until it becomes manifest to them that this is the truth. 41:53. We will continue to show our signs to mankind in their internal world and in the outer universe until this proclamation of ours becomes crystal clear before them that whatever is stated in the Quran is based on fact, it is not conjecture and guesswork. Regarding this Quranic concept about the existence of life dispersed in the stellar bodies, Iqbal had stated that these heavens are not devoid of life. There are hundreds of caravans there too. 1.24 nations of the world. If, by condensing the meaning of the word Alamin, we confine it to the human world, then its meaning will be universal mankind or the sum total of the nations of the world. The Quran has also used this word for these meanings. For example, it has declared itself to be Zikrul lil Alamin, 12:104, and at other places it has called itself the vision for mankind, 45:20, or the guidance for mankind, 2:185. Similarly, in line with this it has declared Rasool as Rahmatul lil Alamin, 21:107, and at other places that the purpose of his messengerhood was for the whole of humanity, 34:28. From this viewpoint Rabbi al-Alamin will mean to be responsible for the nourishment of the whole of mankind. I generally use the term universal system of Rabi'ah for this. 1.25 Responsibility of the Islamic system. From the Rabi'ah of universal mankind this fact also becomes clear that the true Allah, whose concept has been presented by the Quran, is not the Rab of some specific tribe, special race, particular nation, or even of some particular followers of a religion, he is the Rab of universal humanity. And from this reality will also become clear what the practical outcome will be of that system, which will become shaped by the hands of the Ummah which has Iman in Allah. Jamaat-e-Mu'minin or Ummat-e-Muslima, according to which Allah's attribute of Rabbi al-Alamin will become manifest in a tangible and self-evident form. This system will take the responsibility for providing the means of sustenance to the whole of mankind on itself. It is stated in the Quran, there is no moving creature on earth, but its sustenance depends on Allah, 11:6. There is no living creature on planet earth for whose rizq Allah has not taken the responsibility upon himself. The treasures of rizq have been provided by Allah, but their production and distribution are carried out through human hands. This ummah will generate the maximum means of sustenance, rizq, and after this will carry out its distribution in such a way that no human being will be left deprived. In the Quran the foremost reason for Allah being deserving of hamd and appreciation is stated to be his being Rabbi al-Alamin. Furthermore, only that system can be deserving of hamd and appreciation in the world which takes this responsibility of Rabi'ah al-Alamini into its own hands and delivers it in a balanced way. This is the real foundation and the true purpose of the economic system of the Quran. Details of the ways in which this means of sustenance will be acquired or made available will be demonstrated through these two words which will be discussed next. 1.26 Rahman, Rahim, 1:2. The root of each of these words is Ram, Rhm. It is from this that the word Rahmath originates, which means that donation which fulfills someone's apparent and hidden privation, and which is given according to the requirement of the need. The word Rahim also originates from this. The way in which the fetus receives nourishment within the uterus of the mother illustrates the meaning of Rahmath with clarity. From the reproductive cells of man and woman, fertilization takes place and the embryo becomes established within the uterus. In this coming together within the embryo the realizable potentials of a live human child are concealed. The way in which the means of nourishment are provided there to make these potentials manifest astounds people of intellect and vision. Everything is received there without any recompense and return. This is received in a completely different way from the manner after the child is born. And then there is such flexibility, tolerance, refinement, and delicacy within the mother's uterus that it does not become an obstacle in the movement of the fetus. This is one example of the displays of Allah's rahmat. The question which arises is why two words, Rahman and Rahim, have been used for the manifestation and expression of this attribute of Allah, rahmat, even though the root of both is the same. As we have seen under the topic of Bismillah, these words have been used there as well, and these are translated as the one who is merciful, very compassionate. You have seen that from this translation not only does the reality not become apparent, but it is also not comprehensible what is meant by the one who is merciful, and very compassionate. In English translations of the Quran the words beneficent and merciful also appear for these. From these also the matter remains unclear, and neither can the correct meaning be understood. The Arabic language is a very scientific language. Every word in it has a root which contains a fundamental meaning like the seed of a tree. After this, in this language there are different forms, or weightages, according to which various words keep on arising from this very root. Every form, or weightage, has a specific characteristic. As a result of this, even though the words which arise in various forms have the same fundamental meaning, their characteristics keep on becoming different. The word Rahiman is based on the weight of Fa'ilun, whose characteristic is that the expression of this attribute is that it is continuous, gradual, and persistent. And the weight of Ramanan is on Falanan, whose meaning is that the expression of this attribute is with intensity and all of a sudden. This difference between these two meanings demands profound reflection and reasoning. As has been stated, researchers from the discipline of physical sciences have reached this conclusion that development in the things of the universe is occurring through an evolutionary process, i.e., with gradual nourishment these keep progressing forward from their point of origin until they reach their destination of completion. These evolutionary stages are traversed, link by link, on a continuous basis. There is no gap in these links. But sometimes it also happens that a thing jumps across various links in a single leap and adopts a new form. 1.27 Emergent evolution. This is known as emergent evolution in their terminology. These scientists are unable to explain anything about how this occurs. Thus, we may say, the leader of this doctrine, Lloyd Morgan, writes in his book, Emergent Evolution. If it is asked, that thing which you call emergent, what is it actually? The brief answer to this will be that this is a new kind of connection. And if it is asked in what respect are these connections considered new, then the answer can only be that prior to the appearance of their characteristics nothing can be said about them. In the same vein, Viscount Samuel writes, in the chain of cause and effect sometimes those exceptions appear which only the hand of nature can bring into existence. From the above explanations this fact becomes evident that the usual form of the means of nourishment, rahmat, which the things of the universe obtain for their development is that it keeps becoming available continuously and stage by stage. For this the Quran has termed Allah as being Ar-Rahim. But when its appearance is in the form of emergent evolution, then he has called this Ar-Rahman. Have you observed how the matter has changed significantly simply due to the differentiation in weightage, and how this matter becomes understood why the Quran has used two different words from one root? 1.28 The stages of human creation. In relation to human creation the manifestation of both these attributes are noted in one verse of the Quran in a very perspicuous and visionary style. It is stated in Sura Al-Mu'minun that the beginning of the creation of man took place from inert matter. Then conception occurred in the mother's uterus and the fetus began to develop. First it adopted the form of a leech-like clot, then it became like a piece of flesh, then a skeleton of bones emerged in it, then a layer of flesh was wrapped over these bones. Up until this point the technique of reproduction and development is the same for the embryos of a human being and other animals, and comes into shape via a gradual process. This takes place according to Allah's attribute of Rahim. After this, Such a fundamental difference occurs between a human being and an animal, which is not the physical outcome of the former links of evolution. There, a sudden change emerges. About this the Quran has stated, "Then we created out of it another creature," 23:14. In other words, then Allah made it into a new kind of creation. This is the consequence of emergent evolution. According to this new creation, man becomes endowed with his self, whose fundamental characteristic is choice and intent, and through the development of which it becomes enabled to traverse further evolutionary stages. For this emergent evolution the word Ar-Rahman has appeared. 1.29 Guidance of Wahi. The development of the human self takes place through obedience of those values and instructions which are given via Wahi, revelation, from Allah. When Allah stated about himself that your Rabb has inscribed for himself Rahmath, 6:54. Allah has declared it as a duty upon himself to bestow the means of sustenance, Rahmath. This also means that in this Rahmath, other than the means of nourishment for the physical life of man, the development of his self was also included. Here, another aspect appears before us, which is a specific manifestation of his attribute of Rahmaniyat. About man it is stated in the Quran, "Taught man that which he knew not." 96:5. In other words, Allah placed the ability to gain knowledge within man. Animals live their life according to their instinct, they do not have any need to gain knowledge from outside, therefore they are not even bestowed with this ability. This ability is specifically for human beings. Man acquires this knowledge through different ways and means, i.e., observations, experiments, study, education and teaching, lectures and discussions, etc. Knowledge is gained gradually via these methods, and whichever individual wishes to, he can achieve it. In other words, we can say that in this aspect Allah's attribute of Rahimiyat is functioning. 1.29.1 Wahi was always external. But there is another form of knowledge as well, which cannot be obtained in any way whatsoever through the methods mentioned above, nor is there any role played in it of man's own effort, or deed, and skill. This used to be conferred from Allah directly onto his chosen righteous individuals. This is called Wahi. This is that knowledge about which it is stated, "But Allah will choose for his special rahmath whom he will," 2:105. According to his program of Mashi'at, Allah selects whoever he wishes specifically for this rahmath. This reality that in the acquisition of Wahi there was no role of man's own skill and effort is clear from the fact that the righteous being who was being selected and designated for this had no knowledge or inkling before receiving Wahi of this matter that he was going to be bestowed with this knowledge. Hence, in the case of Rasulullah himself it is stated, "You knew not before what was the book and what was Iman," 42:52. From this it is evident that in the bestowing of Wahi Allah's attribute of Rahmaniyat would manifest itself. This is why it is stated regarding this, Ar-Rahman. It is he who has taught the Quran. 55:1-2. Knowledge of the Quran is bestowed by Rahman, and it is on this very basis that the Quran is declared as being Rahmath. It is noted in Sura Bani Israel that we sent down in the Quran that which is a healing and a rahmath for Mu'mineen. 17:82. And we have bestowed in the Quran all that which is a healing and a rahmath for those who seek Iman in its truth. This knowledge, Wahi, from Allah was bestowed for the final time on Rasulullah. In this Wahi Deen reached its completion and was preserved in the folds of the Quran. This is called the finality of Nubuwwat. After this there remained no need to provide knowledge directly from Allah, nor any possibility or prospect. 1.30 Further elaboration of Bismillah. From the above discussion it becomes clear that the responsibility which Allah had taken upon himself for the provision of the means of nourishment, Rahmath, 6:54, encompasses both the outer universe and the human world. This is why he has stated, "Our Rabb, your reach is over all things in rahmath and knowledge," 40:7. At the time of describing the exposition of Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim we had said that the meaning of Rahman and Rahim will appear before us in Surah Al-Fatiha. From the meanings of these two words which have been explained above, it is clear that when it will be declared by Allah that we have given this program for this purpose, that our attributes of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat become manifest, then by this it will refer to that means of nourishment which was essential for the nourishment of physical life and the human self. And when these words will be delivered through the human tongue, it will mean that I am taking responsibility for this program before me, so that by this these attributes of Allah become universally manifest, i.e., that system becomes established in which the means of sustenance becomes available for the nourishment of the physical life of the whole of mankind, and the development of the abilities of their self also keeps taking place. From this reality will also become apparent that when Sulaiman started his missive to Queen Saba with the words Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, 27:30, then what a supreme, great reality was intended to be disclosed by this. The aim, or consequence, of the armed invasions by all kings is destruction and devastation. It was on this basis that Queen Saba had told her ministers. She said, "Kings, when they enter a country, despoil it, and make the noblest of its people its meanest." Thus do they behave. 27:34. When kings invade a country, they crush it, the people who have respect and dignity in that land are humiliated and ruined, and this action is not confined to one particular king. This is the pattern of Malukiyat, kingship or dictatorship, itself. Sulaiman had clarified this very reality in his letter, that my masluk, way, is not like that of worldly kings. I am a messenger of Allah, and a conduit to bring his sovereignty into practical manifestation. Therefore, this launching of forces of mine is not for ruin and destruction, rather it is to make the attributes of Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat widespread. Sulaiman was a messenger specifically assigned to a particular nation, and his sphere of influence and application was confined to a particular region of the earth. In contrast to this, the final messenger of Allah was sent, and is, as a messenger for the whole of mankind, and the sphere of influence and application of his teaching was, and is, beyond the limits of time and space. This is why Rasulullah is declared as Rahmat for all Alameen, 21:107. 1.31 The correct meaning of Ram. Before proceeding, it is necessary to clarify another fundamental point. In Allah's attribute of Rahimiyat the meaning of Ram is included, but there is a fundamental distinction between the Quranic meaning of Ram and the meaning which is prevalent in the world. This prevalent meaning has been made commonplace by Christianity, and it was from this that those misconceptions arose to which Muslims also fell prey. This concept spread amongst them through mysticism. The fundamental doctrine of Christianity is that every child is born stained with the sin of his first parents, Adam and Eve. This is called original sin. It is not at all possible for man to become cleansed and purified of the taint of this sin. The logical and natural consequence of this is that no man remains capable of entering paradise at all. 1.32 The doctrine of Christianity. The Christian belief is that when God observed the state of hapless human beings, then he felt, Allah forbid, very grieved, he felt pity for them, and he sent his only Son into the world so that the opponents crucify him, and in this way his blood becomes an atonement for the sins of men. From this Christian belief became widespread that the issue of salvation is not dependent on human deeds but is dependent on Allah's mercy, which reaches those people who believe in the atonement of his Son, Jesus. Read the letters by St. Paul in the New Testament of the Bible. This belief has been propagated in these. He has said, "For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast." Ephesians 2:8-9. In another letter he wrote, "For we maintain that a man is justified by faith apart from observing the law." Romans 3:28. In other words, that we conclude that man does not become righteous according to deeds as per Shariat but is considered righteous as a result of faith. This is that very doctrine according to which Christians hold this belief about God, that God is mercy or God is love. And this is that same concept according to which Rahman and Rahim is translated as merciful and compassionate in English translations of the Quran. 1.33 The Quranic concept of Ram. In opposition to this doctrine of Christianity, the whole structure of Quranic teaching is constituted on the foundation of the law of requital. This means that the result of every individual or collective deed of man is determined according to this law which has been established by Allah for this. The consequence of ingesting cyanide is death, while ingesting clean and pure water is an elixir of life. Going beyond the physical universe and the physical life of man himself, this same law is functioning in life as a human being also. This is called Allah's system of justice, and this system of Allah is immutable and absolute. But we have stated above that the concept of Ram is also included in Allah's attribute of Rahimiyat. From this, the question before us is that Adl, justice, and Ram are apparently two contradictory concepts. How can there be compatibility between these two? If the sentiment of Ram dominates Adl, then it does not remain as Adl, but according to the Quranic meaning of Ram no contradiction remains. In this both Adl as well as Ram remain. This can be understood through an example. An individual puts his finger into the fire, and the finger gets burnt. There is severe pain resulting from this. All this takes place according to Allah's law of Adl, in which there is not an iota of Ram. But that Allah who has made this law that a finger becomes burnt by fire, that same Allah has also created such medicines from the use of which the severe pain from burning becomes relieved. And there is the possibility of revival of the finger again. This type of means of protection or devising of treatments is Allah's Rahmat or His Ram. You have seen that in this concept of Ram the concept of the law is functioning, i.e. the way in which there is Allah's law, Adl, that a finger burns if put into the fire. Similarly there is also a law of Allah that the finger heals by the application of a certain medicine. 1.34 The Quranic concept of Tawbah, repentance. In human life this is termed Tawbah. The Quranic concept of Tawbah can also be understood through an example. You have to go to some particular village. At a crossroads you took a turn in the wrong direction. This is losing direction and an error. After walking a short distance, someone informs you, or you realize through signs en route, that you are going on the wrong path. Obviously after this you will not take a single further step in this direction. You will of a necessity require to return to that same crossroads from where you had taken this wrong turn. But by merely returning to this crossroads you will still not reach your intended destination. From here, you will need to step in the right direction. In the language of Arabs and in the terminology of the Quran, returning from the wrong path back to the crossroads is called Tawbah, and getting onto the right path from the crossroads is termed as being Amal-e Saleh, righteous deeds. In this way the loss caused by human error is rectified. In human life there are laws established by Allah for this kind of countering of consequences and recovery. Including these kinds of laws in the code of life is called Allah's Ram in Quranic terminology, and it is in these very meanings that Allah is Rahim. Among Jews no concept of Tawbah even exists. Similarly in Christianity there is no possibility of removing the effect of a sin through deeds. According to the Hindu religion, whatever june, form, man has been born into, mouse, dog, pig, low caste, etc., as a consequence of his deeds in a previous life, it is impossible to alter it in the present life. In other words, among these followers of religions, according to the Quran, there is a rejection of Allah's rahmat, from the possibility of rectification. The Quran terms this as kafir. And never give up hope of Allah's mercy. Truly no one despairs of Allah's mercy, except those who are kafir. 12:87. In contrast to this, it has stated, "Say, O my servants who have transgressed against theirselves, despair not of the mercy, rahmat, of Allah, for Allah protects from all sins, for He is all-protecting and Rahim. Turn you to your Rabb and bow to His will, laws, before the penalty comes on you, after that you shall not be helped." 39:53-54. O Rasool, tell these servants of mine who have done wrong to their own selves, who have taken a turn in the wrong direction at the crossroads of life, that they should not lose hope in Allah's law of rahmath. In his system of justice the potential for erasing the effects caused by mistakes is also present. Whenever this realization awakens in you that you have taken a step in the direction of a non-divine path, you should turn towards the laws of your Rabb and bow your head before his laws willingly. As a result of this, you will be protected from the harms arising from your mistake. However, this is only possible if you turn towards the divine laws before the destructive effects resulting from your error begin to appear before you. If you cause any delay in this, then their rectification will not be possible. The Quran has summarized this whole explanation in these 4 words, in Arabic, when it stated that, "For those things that are good remove those that are evil," 11:114. The condition for recovery from the destructive effects of wrong steps is that you should perform as many constructive tasks as possible, remove the consequences of wrong deeds through righteous deeds. This is the way in which Allah's Ram manifests itself. Have you seen how Allah's Ram is in reality one constituent of his law of requital? This is further elucidated in the next words of Surah Al-Fatiha, where it is stated, Maliki Yawm Din. 1:3.